Hi, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. I have kind of a serious video today that carries with it a couple of lessons that I hope will be important, help some people out there. A very dear friend of mine died yesterday. He was, I would consider him my, if there is such a thing, and I'm not an indigenous peoples or Aboriginal type. But if there is such a thing as a spirit friend, he is the one that would be my closest one, because we shared a great number of life experiences, the way we thought about things, the things that we did. He is the closest in my current circle of friends to my background. When I left my previous life years ago, I pretty much put it all aside. It was not conducive to a normal life, and I knew that it wasn't, and I did my best to separate myself completely from it, geographically, mentally, emotionally, all of that, and have done a pretty good job of that. I have got a great life now. I address a little bit of this in one of the books. I'm kind of touching on the edges. I find that when I talk about these things or write about them, it does tend to touch people out there who maybe have some of these shared experiences, and I won't claim that it helps them, but they seem to get something out of it. Anyway, my friend did not separate himself from the old ways as much as I did. He pretty much had a straight continuum in his life. He was probably the toughest and most dangerous man I've ever known. He was also the most courteous and polite and kind man I've ever known. And those might seem opposing forces to many, but they're really not. Now, I probably am going to do a video on that kind of thing one of these days. We'll just see. But he was, if you knew, so anyway, as we would talk through the years, he was the one person with whom I was able to talk about certain things that nobody in my current world could even begin to understand. And it's a good feeling. And any of you out there who have that kind of background, you know how important that can be. And when he was going through some things, he would say that talking to me was better than Xanax. So we had that. He was a tough. If you ask people about him in his early years, the one word that they would, well, two words probably, was to describe him would be tough and deadly. Later on, they would say, as I said, kind. One often leads to the other, because the more bad you see in the world, the more horror you see in the world, the more you appreciate its opposite, and you really do. I'm not sure I can get into that anymore right now. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, excuse me, my alarm must be time for something. I have no idea what it is. Anyway, he was one of the toughest. Just to he and I were in a number of the same types of organizations and units. He spent 3 days nailed to a tree in Laos, to give you an idea of how his younger life was. Anyway, he died yesterday, and it didn't have to happen. And what it was is because he's older than I, a bit older than I, but not near the point that anybody expected this. He died of an intestinal blockage, and he was just too tough and too cranky and too obstinate to let his wife take him into the doctor or into the hospital. And by the time he finally did, because he was used to pain, he's lived with pain all his life, and this was just another one. And he, I'm sure, expected it to pass, and he figured he could gut it out until it did. And and finally, he let his wife take him into the hospital, and they got in there, and yeah, it wasn't just a stomach ache; it was an intestinal blockage. He'd let it go on too long, and they once they took a look, they said, well, everything had been, the blood flow had been shut off, and everything was, and there was dying, and he was full of sepsis, and they told his wife that they didn't expect him to make it through the night. He didn't. He died late that night. I'll be back in half a second. Okay, I'm back. I think I'm back. I've never tried the pause button on this before. Had to go get a drink of water. Had a scratchy throat. I had somebody on here whining the other day about they couldn't stand hearing me clear my throat all the time. I know I do that. I'm sure it's irritating. It's irritating for me too. But anyway, he was a whiner, and I deleted him. Anyway, the lesson here is a lesson for a lot of us, especially those of us who are sometimes, too tough for our own good. Is as much as we talk about natural healing and natural medicine, modern medicine has a place, and it can do things that the natural stuff can't do. And, my wife and I are both guilty of this, not getting to a doctor when we should, thinking it'll pass, thinking that we can tough it out. It'll go away tomorrow. I'll go to the doctor tomorrow if it's not better. And then tomorrow comes, and then we say, well, it's not worse. I'll wait one more day. Okay. There are other people that just whine at the drop of a hat, right? And they're always running for help. But our way is not necessarily better than that, because, their way, they're just a bunch of babies, but our way can have, some dire consequences that affect a lot of people around us. And it's kind of a responsibility of ours to get in when we need to. So that's the first lesson. And the second lesson, and I'll try to get through this, not sure if I can, is that, I don't think that I can. So I will wish you all a good day, and remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and that means keeping up on our health and doing the things that we should when we should, okay, for our own sake and for those around us. So you all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.